here today. This is a call meeting of a joint workshop to be held discussing some things that are of importance to several of our elected groups down here. The notice was given that the Rockport City Council would hold a joint workshop with Aransas County, Appraisal District Board of Directors, Aransas County Commissioners Court, the town of Fulton, and those others who couldn't make it. And we know that making it is sometimes a difficult thing. I will first start off with us with a roll call to establish we have a quorum, although we're not conducting a whole lot of business. Ward 1?
Here.
Ward 2?
Here.
Ward 3? Hello, Brad. Ward 4?
Here.
Mayor here. There are 4 of us live and 1 right there. And it's good to have y'all. I will note the presence of the Appraisal District. Thank you for being here. The school board, thank y'all so much. Who else do I see back there? Yes, the county. I already spoke with the judge. It's good to see you. For those that couldn't be here, I regret they couldn't be, but we all have a lot of things going on this time. So, having said all that, speaker participation instructions are provided in case anybody from the public wishes to speak. We will shortly have the Pledge of Allegiance, after which we will have citizens to be heard. If you'll stand and join us with the Pledge of Allegiance first. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. You can have a seat. All right. First item on the agenda is citizens to be heard. Do we have any forms filled out by anyone to speak?
I did not receive any forms.
Is there anyone that needed to make any kind of a speech or a presentation on your behalf before we get into business? We usually have a form filled out. If I don't have one, I get really in a big hurry and go right past it, and then somebody says, oh, you skipped me. I don't want to do that. All right. That being done, first item on the agenda, discussion with the other taxing entities within Aransas County on possible topics of recent legislation changes, property tax, petitions filed, process for appointing board members to the Appraisal District, budget financial updates, and so forth by City Manager Vanessa Schroner.
I actually am not in charge of this meeting, so somebody else is going to have to step up and handle this.
Go right ahead. If you would come up here so everybody can hear you and it gets recorded, it'd be appreciated. Yeah, if you don't mind, if you stand up there, we'll get it recorded for sure. And where you are, it may not get recorded, and it'd be nice to know what was said.
Okay, so procedurally, I guess what we need to do is we need to open our meeting as the Aransas County Appraisal District Board of Directors. We've got a newly adopted process that we do where we go through and introduce ourselves. So start with the board members here. Just introduce yourself, please.
I'm Janet Hasty. Nikki Arnold.
And I am Matt Ocker. And so we are now open, and we have a citizens be heard portion 2, which already been satisfied. And so basically, I don't have a blueprint for how to go through this. I see our role here as somewhat supervisory, or not supervisory, advisory. And I'm here just as a resource to answer y'all's questions. This is a process that is driven by the taxing entities. Right. So we serve at the pleasure of the apparatus that you lay out for us on how you populate our board.
All right. And get blamed for most everything that goes wrong.
Well, some more than others, yes, sir.
All right. Questions? Does anyone have things we want to approach as questions for the discussion in this workshop?
So I think we should talk about why we're here. Does everybody understand that?
Yes.
So the currently the school board, the school district, and the county have appointees on the appraisal district. No other entities, no other taxing entities have an appointee on the board. That's not right or wrong. However, there is a governing set, what I believe to be a governing set of resolutions that say how the appointee should be done. It's questionable whether they're current or not. It doesn't matter at this point. At some point, everybody relinquished their choices to the county and got away from these resolutions. So there's two ways you can have appointees on the Appraisal District Board in Texas. There might be 3 or 5. If there's more, somebody tell me, but these are the two that I am aware of and that are at hand today. One is you can do it how state law tells you, and it's a very complicated math formula that has to be refigured every year. Am I right, Nikki? Okay. And that is the default, I'm sorry?
This form that I gave you, right?
Okay, well,
The math is done.
just read your no. The other way is you can adopt, every taxing entity can adopt a resolution for an agreed upon manner that, I don't want to say overrides state law, but that takes the place of state law. So in our meeting at the Appraisal District, we discussed that the entities need to get together and decide, do we want to make our resolutions current? Do we want to abide by state law? Or whatever other option y'all have out there. Now, I believe that if we, well, okay, Nikki, maybe you should go through your numbers. If we go with state law, if we make our resolutions current, do you have those options?
If the tax code, the resolutions are still state law. I just want to clarify
Agreed.
that. It's an amended way to appoint members. It's all within the tax code that I gave you the copies of. There are dates, there are deadlines. It's a matter of you taxing entities deciding how you want that composition and which way you would like to do it. To do it the way the tax code is written originally, it's that mathematical formula. You take the tax levy, I had the appraiser do it. You take the tax levy divided by the previous year's tax levy and multiply and divide, and it's the votes that you see on the paper that I handed to you. That's how you would then have that many votes to cast for appointees if this were the method and everyone had a ballot. The chief appraiser has to compile all of that again. It's in this tax code, if you will. Resolutions are an option to, in my opinion, simplify, but it's just an amended version of how you would then comprise our board and then nominate people to the board. It is currently operating from 1989. Over the last 36 years, how many things have changed hands? I think things have kind of just gotten lost or muddied. That's why you're all here as a taxing entities, to get everyone back to where you guys want to be. There is a financial component to the resolutions, however those seats are comprised. The budget for the appraiser is going to put out will reflect some of those things. He can provide those numbers, I have no idea what those would be, but the number of votes or seats, if you will, do have a sort of financial component to the budget, if you will, of the appraisal district. It's a matter of looking at the number of votes. Do you want to go the math formula and do it by a taxing levy, or do you guys want to do resolutions and decide how many appointees and seats you guys want amongst yourselves?
Okay, can I jump in again and you can shut me up at any point?
You're doing fine.
Could you explain to the people in this room what the role of the Appraisal District Board is? They have two purposes, right?
Essentially, yes.
Okay.
So what we do statutorily is we hire the chief appraiser, hire or fire, and we do some ministerial acts like enter into contracts, things like that, and then we develop the budget, which is then allocated according to the levy to each of the taxing entities. So those are our main functions. I want everyone to understand, if you don't already, our board, it's actually a criminal offense for us to approach our chief appraiser or anyone in the office and attempt to intervene on behalf of a property owner, or to attempt to say, hey, this is the wrong value, try to in any way influence that process. We do not do that. We are not cheerleaders for whoever appointed us. Really, it shouldn't matter who appoints us. I never approached this position from the standpoint of, well, the county appointed me, so I'm looking out for the county's interests. There's really, in our role, there's no such thing as county interests, city interests, school district interests, okay? We're only there to oversee the actual organization, the legal entity, which is the appraisal district, and we only have one employee. We're much like a school district, which has one employee. They have a superintendent. We're the same way. We have nothing to do with the day-to-day running of the office. We set some, you know, we can impact vacation schedules, we can impact salaries, we can impact benefits, things of this nature. But as far as telling people what time to show up, what time to leave, that's not in our purview. So we're really hands-off, and the whole purpose behind it, if you want to look at it from a philosophical standpoint, is we're just citizens who are thrown into the appraisal process so that it's not a complete governmental continuum. Okay, so we are the one component that is removed from the elected official domain, if you will. And so if I wasn't clear about anything else, I'd be happy to expand.
So you have no influence over property values, you do not listen to appeals from citizens, you don't have any purview over any of those things?
Absolutely, and to put a finer point on that, appraisal district boards previously appointed the ARBs. And a couple of sessions ago, the legislature took that away from the CAD boards, and now they're appointed by the district judge, the presiding judge for the county, which is at the district level, which I believe ours is Judge Bauer. So we don't even enter that fray at all anymore.
So then another option and or question I would say is for this board, y'all have to make your decisions, is do we care? Do we want to continue to let the judge appoint them? I kicked this hornet's nest and said, why don't we have representation on that board? And apparently then a frenzy erupted, but I'm here for it, so, and I own it. So that's another option for you guys. We don't care. I know we care, but we would be hands-off, you know, we can continue it as it is. I think there was some discussion of making the board larger. I can give you advice on that if you want it, but that's an option. Make it larger, give everybody a seat. We have to remember that a portion of Aransas Pass is in Aransas County, so they also would be entitled to representation should they choose to take it, much like the Stormwater Management Committee. They participate in that. I don't think they have any interest in working on our appraisal board. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I haven't heard any.
Okay, well, they're not screaming, so that's a good thing. So I think now we would entertain questions, and I can't answer questions, that's you.
If I may, one other point, the way the code is set up, and this all comes from section 6.03 of the tax code, okay? And it's,
Right here.
boy, I tell you, if you want some light reading, you know, it's, dive in.
Thank you, Nikki, for doing that.
Right. And so the thing is, if you have to have a minimum of 3/4 of the taxing entities that are eligible for participation on the board, you have to have an agreement in the form of a resolution that's been duly passed and entered, and you have to get 3/4 of them to agree in order to augment the system away from 6.03, which is the apportionment vote process, what I call it, to 6.031, which is where the taxing entities decide how they appoint, whether it's a direct appointment or whether y'all do the voting system a different way. The only caveat in there is the 3/4 gets you control, but according to state law, whoever does not sign a resolution or adopt a resolution that is congruent with the others, they cannot share in the funding of the appraisal district. In other words, if we charge them, we would be in violation of state law because they have to acquiesce to be taken out of the decision-making process, or they don't have to pay. Now, you can look at the numbers. I mean, some of them, you're really not losing much. A couple of them in there, it's something, you know, and to give a better understanding of that, our budget is a little under, you know, $1.5 million a year. I don't know where that budget's going to go. It went down last year. I think it was about $150,000 we cut off from the previous year. You know, everything goes up. So just keep that in mind that, you know, that whatever the number is today, it's going to be something larger going into the future.
I would like to note the presence of Navigation District, Tommy Moore. It's good to have you. Thank you for coming.
I would like to add something just for the audience here. I'm the one that messed up and posted a meeting. I thought everybody else was gonna post a meeting. So just because they're up here having a formal meeting does not mean you're precluded from asking questions and participating in this meeting. It's not a formal council meeting. We just have a forum, so.
And you're welcome to, if you get my attention before you start talking, it would help, but you're welcome to address the subject any way that you feel like is proper. If there are concerns in your organization, your department, your entity, well, you're welcome to ask, and we can see what we can do as a group, not just us, to come to some sort of conclusion that everybody could live with and be happy. Questions?
I have one.
Go ahead.
I'm not sure who can answer it, but I want to make sure I understand from what I read. For the past 36 years, we have been operating under just using state law. We didn't go the resolution route.
No,
And,
there are resolutions from 1989.
okay, and that was the last one. So it's been quite a while, and we're considering looking at writing a new resolution that would possibly include and provide better representation for all the different bodies around here. Is that correct, Vanessa?
That's one option.
That's one option. Okay.
My thinking was, I didn't mean to cut you off there. My thinking was, when I originally started to tackle this subject, it was brought to my attention, I've seen how the vote apportionment process plays out, okay? And I can tell you that in communities past in which I've lived, they have violated the Open Meetings Act ad nauseum, because you got all this horse trading that goes on behind the scenes. In a perfect world where everybody likes the 5 people that populate the board or the 7 people or whatever, and there's no controversy, doesn't matter, okay? Nobody throws up a red flag. My thinking is, because property taxation has been a more illuminated topic in the consciousness of our communities recently, it's ripe for that to become more controversial. You know, we've seen it on our board, if you've been looking at in the last couple of years. And I think the vote apportionment process, I think it's going to be destructive. I really do. I think that there's going to be jockeying for position on when people hold their meetings so that they know how to apportion their votes to counteract the votes of the other ones. Controversy is going to stoke those flames. If everybody likes, I mean, I think I'm a super likable guy. I think everybody would love to have me on the board. So there's no problem with me, but you know, some of the other ones, I don't know. So my deal was, I would rather go to a direct appointment. I'm agnostic as to how y'all want to do that. If you want to keep it a 5-person board, my only thing on that is, there is an Attorney General's opinion that says, because we fall under the statute where our tax collector is a member of our board ex officio, supposedly we have to have a 4-person quorum. So we have 5 people actually on the board that are voting members, 1 that's not. To get a majority, we have to have 4 people there. Sometimes that can be a challenge. So if we did increase the numbers, if we went to say a 7-person board or 9-person board, it would ease the concerns about not making quorum certain times. We try not to have a whole rash of meetings, but here recently, it's just certain things we've had to do a little house cleaning. Of course, we've been presented with an opportunity and a challenge in that our chief appraiser of 10 years plus retired at the end of last year. And so we're right in the middle of the process. We're going to be interviewing candidates tomorrow. So that makes our meetings a little more frequent than by statute. We only have to meet once every quarter. But basically, I don't really care how you do it. I mean, other than I do have a little bit of I'm a little bit weary of going the vote apportionment route. I just don't think that's going to be.
Is that what I'm describing as the resolution path?
No, the resolution path is
okay.
right.
All right.
Vote apportionment is state law.
Okay. All right.
It's the default, if you will.
Okay.
If there's no action taken by the government entities, the default is 6.03.
Okay.
I'd like to welcome Mayor Cole from Fulton. Thank you for coming. It's good to see you. Welcome. Yes, ma'am.
I've heard, Mr. Ocker, how you felt. Because you are one person on the board, how does the rest of your board feel?
I don't know. They can speak to that.
I've only been on the board 4 months, so I'm still learning. But it seems like an easier process, the way that we have been doing it through the resolution, as long as we can have every
Anybody else have strong feelings one way or the other?
I don't have feelings, again, the math is complex, in the code that I provided you, there are so many dates. You have to provide the name to the appraiser by June something, and he has to prepare the ballot by October, then there has to be a vote from all the taxing entities, you cast your vote based on the math provided on the other sheet, and then, you would go from there. It is more complex than adopting resolutions, but we do have to get 3/4 majority of our taxing entities to agree on said resolutions to alter the math version, if you will.
So I think that our big problem that has arisen is getting the 3/4 for the taxing entities resolutions. We're operating on something that the resolution for 1989. In 1989, some of the taxing entities were not in existence. So that, at that time in 1989, we had a 3/4 body who went with resolutions, but since then we have increased the number of our taxing entities. So we're no longer at a 3/4 resolution. So something has to be done. We can say that we can continue operating as we are, but not really because 3/4 of our current taxing entities were not part of the 1989 resolutions.
Yes, ma'am.
So with that being said, wouldn't it just be, ideal to update the names? Because I feel like on that resolution, you have the mud district, you have, I don't remember all of the resolution. So if we just roll over with the names, updated names, wouldn't that be?
Well, yes and no. Everyone has to agree to it. Every taxing entity then has to go back, consult your own legal, make your own resolution. Again, the whole purpose of this workshop is to get you guys on the same page to go forward. Staggered terms are in everything that would need to be in your resolution.
Yeah.
I think it might be a great idea to put a deadline or how long it's in effect for. That's my own opinion, but so that we don't end up 36 years later from now, we haven't revisited again our process.
And also to piggyback on that, I'm sorry, just real quick. We were presented by legal counsel with an AG opinion that said that if somebody did go 6.031 through the resolution process, that after 2010, because of a legislative change, that those would no longer be in effect, that you would have to readopt. So
Okay.
that's been since 2010. So for 15 years now, either way you look at it, I mean, there's some question as to whether we or not we hit the 3/4 threshold in '89. I don't know how many taxing entities there were, but if there was 7 of them, then we didn't get there. Because we only have 4. But anyway.
But didn't legal counsel also say in that same meeting that what the Attorney General said wasn't really all that valid?
So it's persuasive, it's not instructive,
Yeah.
it's not the same as a court of review in your jurisdiction or the Supreme Court. But if you go to court against an Attorney General's opinion, you have a steep battle ahead of you.
So regardless of the legal opinion, all the entities were not represented at that time. And so something has to be done,
Correct.
no matter what. Now, Nikki can correct me if I'm wrong, but the math pretty much comes out the same if we go state law or if we stick with the resolutions and update them, correct, for the seats?
It's for you guys to determine the seats.
Okay.
The math can determine that under option A, if you will, they call it the math version, the basic state law math version. Correct. However, you taxing entities can elect to do 2-2-1, 1-1-1. However you want to do it is your choice to do it. There is a small financial component, like I said, based on the budget that would go to the appraisal district. But it is the taxing entity's choice for those appointment seats.
So I think right now, as the resolutions read, it's 3 school district seats, 1 county, 1 city.
Two
Two
county,
county.
no city.
Hold on.
They don't all read the same from 1989. And
Okay,
again, that's another suggestion, if you guys were to adopt the resolution form, is to get them all again on the same page. The city's resolution reads that, yes, they'll agree to 3, however, I want to give my nomination to the county, and they have to consider, that's the city's 1989 resolution. Fulton and the county and everyone else just says, yes, we agree to staggered terms and agree to. So they don't all read the same, even in 1989. It's something that we should be considered going forward, is that, do we really all agree, and it needs to be documented as such?
So
I
the,
think that one of the, where the issue came to my attention, and I don't have a bad feeling one way or the other about the whole thing, but for 3 years now, I've been sitting on the council and we do a budget every year. I think most of y'all do a budget every year. And people come and sit at the budget meetings and they listen to us talk and they talk about their taxes were raised. Then all of a sudden their property values were raised and it's all y'all's fault. And I keep saying, we had nothing to do with that. I mean, we're here, but yes. And somebody asked me after a meeting, who's y'all's representative on the appraisal district? And I said, I don't know, but I'll find out. And so I asked and they said, well, we don't have one. And I thought, oh, so it's not my fault. But nobody's gonna listen to that. So from my standpoint, I see a value in the taxing entities having somebody appointed by that entity to represent them on the appraisal district. Not that it is going to change anything, because y'all are having to look at things countywide for the entire area. It doesn't matter whether they're in Fulton or Rockport or where they are. You have to do evaluations on everything. And I trust that. You know, I have not seen, that I'm aware of, anybody that really got shafted, but I know people that think they did. And that is the thing that makes it a little simpler, I think, if each entity has their own representative on the board.
Right, and so it's hard for people to wrap their head around this conceptually. We all understand the need or the desire for representation. Okay, that's fundamental fairness, right? That's how we all look at it. Sure. I will tell you this though: if one entity is getting a benefit by who's on that board versus who's not on that board, someone is breaking the law. Okay, there should be no benefit one way or the other. We don't set values. In no way, shape, or form. We are simply the government oversight of the entity itself. We hire one person. Right now we have an interim chief appraiser sitting right there, and that's it.
Yeah.
We don't go to.
it's about benefit. I think it's about knowing what's going on and having representation.
Yeah, I think you're looking at it wrong, and how I'm agreeing with you. Having a representative is knowing things.
None of us as elected officials get a benefit out of this, believe me. Oh, well, okay, I get paid, sorry, but they don't. So that's, that's not the appropriate.
Well, I can tell you that the school district, when I had an informal conversation about let's start talking about how to come within the confines of the law, it was met pretty vociferously with, why are you trying to take away our rights? And I'm like, anyway, that conversation is, okay. Yeah.
That conversation, I believe, was with me. In no form or fashion did I say, are you taking away our rights? No, never did I imply that we have anything to do with collections, because everybody knows we don't. We just pay a lot of the budget for the appraisal board. So my question is, the school district pays right now $734,430 of the appraisal budget, the appraisal district's budget, and we have 3 votes. If we were to reduce that to 2 votes, does that mean we would pay $244,810 less?
No.
How would that work? I thought that was part of the state law of the code.
No, I don't know where you got that from. No.
In our packet, I'm pretty sure.
Because right now, for the last 35 years, every entity except 2 has been charged their portion, and they've gotten 0 representation on the board.
But if you go back to the resolution of 1989, and yes, it needs to be updated, the city was to nominate their person to the county. So if the county didn't reach out to the city and say by October 5th, this needs to be done, then that falls on just miscommunication, right? There's no finger pointing. However, we're still getting charged. If the school district reduces their seat and they're reducing their vote, they reduce their budget.
No. Nowhere does your contribution to the budget, is it dependent on the number of seats you have on the board, or the number of appointments that you enjoy to the board. Those 2 numbers are not tied together.
But the reason why the school district has more representation is because of the taxes levied and how much we pay in the budget, right?
I don't know. I wasn't here in 1989. Well, I was here in 1989, but I was 12.
Today, that would be the reason why the votes are more.
Well, I mean, you can look at it.
Okay, hold on, sorry. Even if we went by the tax code, the school district gets more votes because they contribute, or they're a larger portion of the taxes collected.
Yes.
So that is correct in that if we went by the tax code, you would essentially get more votes because you collect more of the taxes. So they're
Yeah,
not wrong.
But his question was specifically about reducing board appointment privileges. And then
Well,
said
he's
if,
saying if they reduce their appointment privileges, then they're gonna reduce the number they pay in, and I don't think that's the way that works.
no, I can assure you it's not
But
the way it
hold
works.
on, because y'all can go back and forth all day. I'm gonna throw out a suggestion, and then how about y'all kick that to death instead of each other, okay? We have 5 members. School district obviously keeps 2, because that's even the way the math works out, and I'm okay with that. I'm one person, and I don't get a vote, so it's worth what you pay for it. The county gets 1, the city of Rockport gets 1, Nav, Fulton, and the other lesser paying entities agree to 1 and submit to the county judge. That's your 5 seats. It's just an option.
Yeah.
Can I make a comment?
Please go.
Okay, thank you. So I want to kind of go back what the mayor's saying, what you had said. I think how I look at it, just even listening to this conversation here, not having a representative on the actual appraisal district, it's confusing. And not to have someone to be able to come back and tell us what's going on at the appraisal district, what rules are changed, or what you guys, who you hired, whatever is going on, that is the main focus for me, to want someone there to make sure they can even come report to us. Not to have a benefit, not to gain anything, but just to give the information. Because
Well-
this is a lot of information, and not having even a second to look at it, that's too much. So having someone to have that knowledge and to be there and to report back, that's gonna be such a beneficial thing for the city. I'm just talking for the city in my eyes. That's how I look at it.
So I understand what you're saying. Let me just augment that a little bit. All 5 of us, we serve at the pleasure of all the taxing entities. So you don't necessarily have to appoint someone and that be your liaison. Any one of the 5 of us that any entity contacts and says, hey, we have a question about this, any one of us can fulfill that request.
So in the last, since 19, or I guess I've been on council, 5 years, I have not had one appraisal person come here and give us a report. So that, to me, speaks, we can do so much on our end, but if you guys are not even willing to come and tell us what's going on, I can't force that out of you. But if I know someone's there and that's gonna come and tell us about it, that would make me feel much more comfortable, and especially how much, we are the 3rd largest taxing entity here, so that to me is a benefit. That's beneficial, and that's a very great thing. And I don't know why we haven't had anyone on the appraisal district. I'm not sure what the background is on that situation, but I know that Vanessa bringing it up and watching this meeting alone, that is something that I really do strongly agree that we need, at least as a city, a representative on the appraisal district, so we can get this stuff at least ahead of us.
So I've been on the board for a little over a year now. I think I've been on there about 13 months. I haven't been contacted by any elected official about my service on that board. I welcome anybody. I'd be happy to.
I'm gonna try to find folks that have a question and haven't talked yet, so I'm kind of watching. If you got something, let me know, because we got several that
I'm
have
fine,
talked.
yeah,
Yes, ma'am,
thank
go
you.
right ahead.
For you now, of the current board, besides that, I'm not certain lines. We have tried over the past couple of years to move in a direction of having, a guiding manual or document about how our board would operate. We really don't even have any bylaws, okay? So we're working in that direction, and one of the most critical topics that's been brought up is we need quarterly by statute or law. We believe that quarterly, we should be attending council meetings, submission court, and school districts, and providing knowledge and update of what our quarterly meeting was. And that would be incumbent upon the chairman and the chief appraiser to come and give you that quarterly report. But right now, like I said, we're very loose association here. Not one of us probably felt, we don't really know even the authority to come to anyone. So we're working in that direction, and I think that's critical. That doesn't really happen one way or the other, whether y'all want representation. But quarterly, we have come to that consensus that we will be providing all quarterly updates, correct?
That is in my plan. The first thing I plan to do is tomorrow, hopefully, we're gonna make a decision about who our chief appraiser is gonna be. My plan was to come before the taxing entities and present our hire, talk a little bit about what we do at the appraisal district, field questions, if there are any. And I believe too, I mean, I had a discussion with Judge Garza today on this same topic. There's all these people who aren't even quasi-governmental entities that receive funds that come before the city, that come before the county, and they give their quarterly reports or semi-annual reports. There's no reason we shouldn't be doing that, you know, because typically what happens is if you're not talking about yourself, someone else is probably talking about you, you know?
Anyone else who hasn't spoken that would like to? We've got several that have given us an opinion several times, and I appreciate that. But there's sure a lot of people being quiet that probably have an opinion. And you're entitled to it, right?
Yeah, I don't want to say a whole lot, but I just, for the sake of clarity, both options are tax code options. One of them is not different, they're different, but they're both allotted for the tax code. One in 6.03, super wordy, 6.031, potentially even more wordy. A lot of stuff is going on, but the allocation for voting entitlement that has to do with cities, towns, school districts, and junior colleges, that is a calculation that's done, and that is 6.03. However, there is 6.031, which you may say, call it the alternate method, and it can be done by resolution. But both of those are tax code. Both options are tax code. Both options have to follow the tax code, and they are wording. I find that when I read them on Monday, by Tuesday, I go, I gotta read that again, and so on, and it's always freshest in the morning. I don't know what time it is right now. It's not feel fresh, but they're both tax code. One other thing, just to say, we've talked a little bit about the 3/4 concept that has to be approved. There is just another word in there I want to throw out there just to make this clear, and that is 3/4 of the taxing units that are entitled to vote. So it's not just the word entitled matters here, that's all I'm saying. It's not 3/4 of the taxing units within Aransas County. Some of the taxing units in Aransas County don't have a vote. They don't vote in this process. So the resolution, and this is speaking to the resolution would need 3/4 of the entitled voters. One small sort of caveat there that I'm not 100% sure on is the entitled voters are named in 6.03. It just so happens that our resolution from 1989 lists the Mud District in it. So I don't know if we would have to throw the Mud District in because they happen to be in 1989. I think the answer is no. One other thing that is here in 6.031 that has to do with not in voting entitlement, but in the resolution format, is there is some wording about, we'd have to look at, or you guys would have to look at this to make sure that you understood it completely, but there's some wording that talks about what happens when you reduce someone's, I just lost it, I'm sorry, it's in here, I promise you, where you reduce the proportional percentage of, however, a change under this subsection is not valid if it reduces the voting entitlement of one or more taxing units that do not adopt a resolution proposing it to less than a majority of the voting entitlement under 6.03, and if it reduces the entitlement of any taxing unit that does not adopt a resolution, so on and so on.
And understand that the voting entitlement That's the vote apportionment system. That's not, voting entitlement isn't appointment entitlement. Two different concepts.
Okay. Anyone else? We haven't solved it all yet. I thought by now we'd be done already.
And I think the linchpin of this, you know, as y'all, the taxing entities, elected officials get together and cuss and discuss, I think the linchpin of this is what is the school district willing to accept? If they want a bare majority, no matter what, then the lowest number you could possibly go to and have decent representation by direct appointment would be 9 members. By statute, we can go up to 13. I think that's a bit unmanageable, especially given our facilities. But if, let's say the school district said, we'll be happy with 4, right? If it's 9, that's more manageable. I think everybody gets a seat at the table at that point. I mean, you know, the teeny tiny ones, Port AISD, I don't even think they care. You know, I don't know if anybody's here from the city of Aransas Pass, or APISD. Right, so I don't even know what those people look like, so I apologize. But I don't know that they even care. I mean, I had one brief conversation with the outgoing superintendent. He led me to believe that his board, this was not on their radar. I never even got a call back from the city secretary, so I don't know. But I think that is where the conversation needs to start, is with the school district about, yeah.
So you're saying because they obviously have the most taxable value or generate the most taxes, they get the say in the composition of the board? Because I don't think that's what they're asking for. I would certainly hope not, because I don't think everybody in this room is gonna cater to, I mean, I guess we will, shoot, whatever y'all want, but we're gonna cater to the school district?
They're the only ones that's thrown up an objection.
No,
Yep.
no, I am.
Wait, we never.
Hold on. No, I just said, we are, the city of Rockport is. We're throwing up an objection because we have deferred our appointment to another entity. We want ours back. So that's where the objection comes. Now, if you said, oh, we're gonna do this different, and they maybe had an objection somewhere in there, that's fine.
Well,
But you can lay this on me.
I'm not trying to lay this on anybody. What I'm saying is, I've had a series of conversations with different elected officials, okay, regarding a different method by which we would compose the board. The only entity that had any objection whatsoever was the school district.
Oh, who
That's
did
all
you
I'm saying.
talk to with our group?
I haven't talked to anybody.
Oh,
Yeah. Have you talked to me? You know who I am, right? I mean, I don't know why I'm getting this blame. Here's the process.
you just said you talked to several entities
Yes, I did.
about the
I did.
makeup.
I did. Here's how this went. I talked to.
Becoming argumentative and not productive.
True, agreed.
So let's move along.
Anyone else? Again,
I think with the city side, we can't speak for the school district, can't speak for Fulton, can't speak on our side here. I would like to have a member onto the board. So if that's the way we have to fix the resolution, or if we have to update it, or whatever we need to do on your guys' hand, that's what I would like to do. Can't speak for the rest of the council, but that's where my thought is on it.
I think the strength that the school district has, in my opinion, is the fact that everything is in their jurisdiction. So whether you're in the city, or whether you're in Fulton, or wherever you are, your property is still subject to what the school district is trying to do, because they have no choice. They got all the kids in the county. And so they have to look at all of it. On the other hand, again, to me, I would like to have somebody go down there and be on that board, because you can come back and tell us what's going on, because I never have understood. I always thought everybody had not a member necessarily, but somebody that was involved in it. And when I tried to tell somebody, I'll find out who our representative is and talk to them, and I thought, oh, we hadn't got one. To me, that is not detrimental to the school district, because it's obvious that they have got a lot larger taxable property value than we do. But the idea, again, to me is, and this probably comes from being so democratic at every blasted thing we do, is that somebody represents me. And I don't get the feeling sometime that somebody does if I can't say who that person is. And it's nothing against what y'all do, against the school district. I am proud of our school district. I think they do a great job. Personally, I would feel a lot more comfortable if I could say, you go represent us to the appraisal district. And they just went to the meetings and they came back. We said, how's it going? And they said, oh, property values are gonna fall completely down low or they're gonna go up higher. But we all know, you know, we have a pretty good idea what's gonna happen with that. But my personal thing is I'd like to have somebody there that can come back and say, yeah, we're working hard on all this stuff and we're spending a lot of hours on it and we're busting our butt, just in case anybody would like to know that, because we're doing everything we can that is in the best interest of all of us. And I tell people frequently when we talk about tax increases, yes, we have to pay our bills. You know, I tell people that the city's got to pay our bills just like everybody else does. And sometimes taxes have to go up to offset the cost. And if we had nothing to do, at least on a parent's sake, of setting what the values are, or being there when they're set, I feel a little bit self-conscious about arguing with folks a whole lot about what their property values may have done, up or down, either way. Not that I don't trust y'all, I just don't have anybody that's there that represents what I'm trying to do. And again, nothing against any of y'all. Anybody else got something that we have got 14 minutes before city council meeting starts. If you hadn't said anything and you would like to, Nikki?
I just want to point out that we may or may not resolve this tonight, and I get that's the point of a workshop, is to get you guys the information to make that educated decision. There are dates, there are deadlines, there are things that you guys as taxing entities need to consider for either option as well. The Nav District did submit a letter to our board wanting to get on the board if we choose option A. It was a deadline for them that they needed to follow. Those dates are highlighted in your tax code. Please read them. Which option you choose, there are dates. Your resolution can't come before June 30th to the board, and then the appraiser has other deadlines. So just know that both tax codes have dates and things built into them for the appointment, when the ballots, etc. Resolutions have to be in. That's all.
Can we appoint a small working group with maybe one member of each entity? Would that be productive? I mean, we have to come to a resolution at some point.
I defer to Mr. Ocker, honestly, but I think without a 3/4 majority doing the resolution option, option B, if you will, then we by default go to option A. It's the tax code, it's the tax levy, it's the NAF. If we don't come to a solution of that 3/4 majority, I think it's what we have to do to become above, on board. And so, but again, it has deadlines as well, and so
That's why I'm saying a smaller group, because they will probably get progress more quickly to meet the deadlines and have time to read.
Well, it looks like it's September 15th, so, I mean, we do have a little bit of time to look this over and get
Is
it.
there any objection to the way things are now as far as the 5-person board? And I know we don't object. I just thought we would get in as part of the legal situation, especially, your comments that it doesn't, that we wanna know what's going on, the taxes are going up, going down. That's not what y'all do. Y'all run the business. It's the appraiser that's gonna come answer to us. He's our customer, right?
But they
Or
still get
we're his
reports.
customer.
They still get reports, they
Yeah.
still know.
And, but the
Yeah.
point is, do we have an objection? What the district only gets is a chance to nominate somebody and then one vote, and we vote on any of those, right?
No, you would get, according to this, you would get 136 votes out of 5,000.
Right, so it's not that big a deal.
Right.
But, I thought it would be good that we'd get legal and we'd be able to throw our hat in and just, make sure we've got something to go. Our nominee might not make it, probably not, as far as the odds go. And it doesn't really matter it's just how the business is run. It's not how everything's allocated.
Can I speak to that a little bit? It is just how the business is run, but if you don't like what the appraiser's doing, you don't like how it's setting them, you're the one to tell him to go. So while you may not directly be able to set rates or affect rates, you definitely influence them by who you hire and fire.
I don't know, that's a lot of leg bone connected to the knee bone, connected to the ankle
No,
bone.
it's one board, one person, just like if they don't
I
like
can't
what I
speak
do
on
tonight,
behalf
they're
of
gonna
the
fire me.
school board, but, I mean, we see where y'all would want representation, and we have no, I mean, I wouldn't think the board would have any problem with representation. I was just addressed that we were gonna lose representation. And then I knew that there's code, Texas, the state tax code, and there's rules, if you lose representation, you have to do stuff. Is that correct?
Mr. Presley was looking into that statute.
Trying to do it on the fly.
Okay, because we just made it clear that we just wanna make sure it's done right. If the problem is we think we're doing it wrong from the 1989 resolution, then we wanna make sure it's done correctly.
Am I clear in just the takeaway, since there's been all kinds of things going on? I would like to go back to what Mr. Moore said, which if we're all okay with operating the entities, and this is something the city should talk about, school district talks about, and county talks about, if we're okay operating the way we are with the resolution, and we just need to update the entities that are in there, then that should be pretty simple in my mind. Again, you guys deserve a representation. You are number 3 on tax levy. Everybody deserves a representation, or somebody going in and saying, this is what's going on.
And per the existing resolutions, we have one.
Right, so you just need,
However, Nikki's correct, they're all written differently.
right,
Some have representation for the navigation district, I believe, and some don't.
right,
And, or every entity was not accounted for when they were made.
Right.
So they don't meet today's standard.
right.
So if we go back to the existing resolutions, yeah, City of Rockport's happy, but I bet you're not.
We are.
Okay.
So I think we just have to update the resolution. Again, if every entity comes back and says that they are okay with operating under this resolution, which is updated to today's times, then I'm not speaking on behalf of the board, but 3 out of the 7 are here, and I think we're okay with the numbers. Navigation District just said they were okay with the numbers.
What if you just
County
take
said
the votes?
previously-
If you take the votes and you say, and you're just rounding, City of Rockwood has 732, so let's round that up to 1,000, that's one vote. Aransas County has, 1,275, you'd round that down to 1,000. Navigation District has 136, I'd round to 0. RFISD has 2,600, I'd round to 3. Town of Fulton has 59, I'd round to 0. City of Aransas Pass 37, I'd round to 0. Port Aransas ISD 0. Aransas Pass ISD 111 0. Does that make sense?
So
If
you
you
go
did that,
to 3, 1, and 1.
Right. But that would be, the county would have to, because you have a change of representation, that wouldn't the county have to vote on that and approve it?
If we would discontinue relinquishing our choices, county like we have been, we would nominate that person ourselves. Is the county okay with that? Would they?
Yeah.
So that's why,
I can't speak on the, before on the court, I'm okay with it. And, no commissioner has ever, expressed what they want, except for one that said they're against increasing the numbers. But I'm okay. I mean,
I can almost imagine from Ray Presley's standpoint, a board of 5 people coming down and working, a quorum is 3. If you had 7, it might be easier to get a quorum there, but you're just trying to keep your number from going crazy.
We have to redo the resolution anyway, think about it. It's outdated, it's wrong, updo the resolution with all the entities. Add the navigation 1, the city 1, leave the school at 3, the county at 2. It helps us board members, because I am in Fulton, if they want one. Why not get all the entities involved? It helps the board as well, and the resolution has to be fixed anyway. It is all outdated, and it's time for us all to start working together.
but the county's gonna oppose increasing the size of the board?
no.
Oh,
I mean,
I thought you said that's what you
There's
meant.
5 members, one, 8 commissioners.
Yeah, they just had one comment on that, but, increasing it to 7, like the young lady mentioned there, that gives you guys an opportunity to get a little more representation. It protects you guys as the largest entity there, it gets us what we're looking for, and it doesn't blow this board up into something that's monstrous we can't fix. That's the best idea I've heard so far.
After a
I've been
while,
saying that for years.
after a while, as you make more and more members, it turns into a mob instead of a board. And I have seen committees do that. You put 15 people on the committee and you ain't got a committee anymore.
Right.
But
I have heard nothing but horror stories, because with conferences that I go to, on the voting one, it's horror stories.
I just think it
yes,
makes
ma'am.
sense.
Nancy?
I just want to say one thing, I agree totally with what Anna's saying. I think as a resident of the city of Rockport, you always assume that you have representation on the appraisal board. I'm disappointed that we don't, but I think her suggestion is probably the best suggestion that we've listened to all afternoon. Then you've got, because we're growing, and I don't think the town of Fulton should be excluded, I don't think the navigation district should be excluded, because we're assuming that everybody in this room can make the decisions for our future. We're talking about 1989, we're still operating off of what they thought years ago. We need to start looking for the future, and they should all be included.
Anna, you said go to 7, and what is the composition of that again?
Well, just leave the way it is now.
Okay.
You have your school at 3, county at 2, and then you would be added, the city could have 1 or whatever, you guys determine that.
So they said they were only at 2.
No, we're
No,
No,
they're
they have
three.
3.
They're three.
Okay.
Yeah, they have 3, the county has 2, and I said, and it's, you're gonna have the city, Fulton, the Nav, that's 3 more, that's 8. So
It's
I mean,
8.
Still,
The county had said they would reduce to 1.
So we could have a 7
So you
minute
gotta
one.
have an odd for.
Do you guys have an,
yeah, that's.
Mhm.
you don't
have an
have
objection to that?
That's-
No, I would propose, and again, this is not, we're not voting on this.
No.
I would propose that someone, and since it suits y'all, I could say the city manager who sat here and had some of the opinions could write this up as we said that and send it to everybody and let y'all think about it some more.
I'll take that on if nobody minds.
I would just like to point you that there is another tax code on increasing the board members, and there are deadlines on that too, that's all. I mean, a whole nother.
You know, there's deadlines on everything.
You're gonna be on my IM, help me.
Just so that you know, I think it's an August date, but again, it's another
it's in
resolution
there.
to adopt it.
I feel like we have consensus.
It sounds like
Yeah,
it.
we're pretty close on
Yeah.
these ideas.
How
here.
long
We
would it
can get
take to
done
write
by
that up, get
August.
back to everybody? A week?
I could give up both of my seats and not sign the resolution, you can't bill me?
That's what I said earlier, that they want to see, it's not tied to money.
Okay, how
Give
quick
me,
can we get that to everybody?
give
We've got
me a
3
week.
minutes and people are gonna show up for a council meeting.
give me a week, I'm gonna have a lawyer review it, and you know how they get, so, give me a week to have something out, if I don't, y'all start ding donging me, okay? I always overcommit.
And the deadline is August 15th.
All right.
I got you.
And again, staggered terms are another thing that would have to be in a resolution. It is in the 1989, if you want to do that, again, it's kind of helpful for continuity if it's staggered in general, but it's another something that would have to be in that resolution. But again, that's in your tax code that I printed out for you.
Is that resolution a good resolution? It just needs to be tweaked.
No,
No, it's completely inoperative.
we need a new one.
We need a new one, but to work from is all I'm
Yes,
saying.
the way that it's written, yes, the way that it is written, yes, however, it may be outdated and it needs more.
Yeah, we know it's
entities.
outdated, but to bring it up to date, but a good start instead of trying to redo it.
Well, there's 4 different ones. 3 of them mirror each other linguistically. The 4th one does not. So there's a question as to whether that 4th one is even operative. I would argue it's not. Because they have to be, the resolutions have to be congruent.
So we gotta plan forward. I'll take everything that exists and pull the good stuff from it, and probably go get some examples from some other counties that are doing it this way, and I'll pull the good stuff from those, I'll send it out, and everybody can put their DNA on it, and we'll get back together or something.
Good job.
Thank y'all so very much for being here. If nobody has anything else for the good of the order, I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I have